Welcome to episode 5 of Step Back with Myles and Owen. And today we have serious stuff to discuss, real journalism that we have been doing, boots on the ground reporting here. There has been something unfolding in the WNBA for the last 16 days that simply cannot go unaddressed any longer. And this is the conversation surrounding New York pizza versus Papa John's. Now, Kayla Thornton of the New York Liberty, a legend, a defensive menace. All right,
You could
popping
just
into the
stop at
spotlight.
Menace. You could just stop at Menace.
I can stop right there. Also, a delight. Let's just say, just an absolutely delightful person. She shook the internet with a video that Myles, I will let you get into here because this is something very close to your heart. And I just think for our subscribers, for our fans, everyone, it would not be right if we did not talk about this. So, Myles, the floor is yours.
Yeah. I think that it started innocuously, just one of those team social media posts, and they said they were about to face off against the Sky, and they just had the players come through and say, "Are you pro New York pizza or pro Chicago pizza?" And that's the deep dish argument that's gone back and forth forever. And KT went off the map, which is fine. But then she really stood 10 toes down on Papa John's, which she claimed at the time was the pinnacle of pizza, being Texas pizza, where she's from. Papa John's originated in Indiana, and so already she was coming through this with faulty facts. But we really had to get to the bottom of this, and we've seen this is not the first or only time that Kayla Thornton has put an opinion onto social media. It's become, I would say, but it's become a running bit with the team. But she is deadpan and she is completely serious about every take, which is why I think we need to meet this with the same level of scrutiny. Because yeah, she just needs to find out, and I think that was what this reporting was really about, was not just finding out what KT thinks and what her experience is with New York pizza, because that's very limited, but to see what her teammates are doing to address this, because there's a responsibility, I think, in that locker room, and there's been conversation just about how close this team can be, and I think it starts with pizza. The way to any kind of team chemistry. Growing up in Brooklyn, we would have our when I was an adult, actually, I was playing in this league that was on every Sunday morning, and we would go to a pizza shop afterwards, and that's where we would be when we would break down all the plays, break down why we lost by 15 points, and it would be over a slice. It would be slurping a soda. So there's real camaraderie to be found there, and I think if you want to get a team in New York to that elite level, it starts with the slice.
It starts with the slice. And pull up with Myles and Owen started with Kayla Thornton. She was the first ever episode that we did on our interview show, the partner of this podcast. And it's funny because Kayla is someone who, when you are aware of her as a basketball player, but she's not on your team, she's not in your market, you might think that she's super quiet, doesn't have a lot to say. Where's the personality? The personality comes out when you are around her in market, when you are watching her and Kennedy Burke cut it up and laugh and sing along to Beyonce songs at shoot around. So I think that this speaks to what you're saying, Myles, which is that you can be number one in net rating in the league, but are you number one in taste? Are you really committed to your city, to the fan base in a way where you're connecting with them on the level of a slice to slice basis? And I think this is a case in which we have seen a little bit of a divide. It's worrisome. We'll get into the specifics here in a minute. Should we roll the video, because I might have something controversial yet brave to say in KT's defense, but I might have to hold it.
Just before you do that, I want to give you adequate warning that this could be the last episode of not just Step Back, but also of Pull Up, depending on how much of a ledge you go out there. But so just proceed with caution. This is something I have to bring my bona fides out, having lived in New York City my entire life, having lived in Brooklyn my entire life, this is something that I take very seriously. And there aren't a lot of areas in my life where I am a snob, but pizza might really be that. And I think like some men's sports that I still care about a little too much for someone in his mid 30s. Those might be the areas of growth that I still need to work on. But pizza, I will say, up until a few years ago, it was New York or nothing for me. And I've softened on that because I've come to a point where I'm like, all pizza can be good pizza. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that all pizza is elite. Shout out to Dan Omataya and his tiers. We might need pizza tiers coming at some point soon. But
100%.
but there's some times where you're leaving the bar at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're not craving a good slice of pizza. You're not craving just whatever's open, but you are craving a crappy slice, and that's fine. There are some times where you could be partaking in some other activities and really just want something loaded with toppings and something that tastes like it's lived in a freezer for the last 2 weeks. That's fine too. I think that once you're just when you're getting into the conversation of what is the best pizza, that's where lines need to be drawn because you can't be wishy-washy about this kind of thing. These are professionals. So yeah, that being said, let's roll the tape and then let's get into what they said.
Because we have such a great team. So, I mean, just bringing that fight always, no matter what. So.
Speaking of being hungry, a couple of days ago, the team posted on social media.
Oh, you're talking about the Papa John's.
Oh,
I already know.
KT,
It feels like there's a responsibility on this team to get KT some real Brooklyn, some real New York pizza.
Yeah.
What's being done to kind of address that issue?
You know what? I don't even know what's going on. I feel like no matter what, Casey's going to stick with Papa John's pizza no matter what. Texas, I don't know if she's going to get into that Brooklyn or even Chicago pizza. I think she's going to stick with Papa John's. So, I mean, yeah. She shout out to her for getting that Papa John's first because it was delicious.
Kayla Thornton said that Papa John's was her favorite pizza.
Oh my god.
As a
And
New
then
Yorker,
we got Papa John's
I know,
after
but-
Atlanta game.
I know you're from upstate, but you are a native New Yorker.
Yes.
And you're a leader of this team.
Yes,
have you
I'm
done?
a New York pizza person only. Oh my god.
What have you done though to enlighten KT to fix that
Miles
wrong?
asking the questions.
Well, it was funny in film today when we were going over matchups. They called it Papa John's. But I think we've learned a lot. Papa John's did not originate in Texas.
Of course
It
not.
is an Indianapolis thing, maybe. But yeah, we appreciate Papa John's for sending free pizza. We love that. But we'll get her out in New York a little bit more.
So some stronger words there from the reigning MVP, Breanna Stewart, who is a leader of this team. But at the same time, I feel like she crumbles a little bit there too, right? She doesn't come at this with just I know she's from Syracuse, so I'll give her a little bit of a longer leash there. But she doesn't come at this with the leadership that I think is deserved here, where it's New York or nothing. But she does say we have to get her out into the community. We have to just show Kayla what New York pizza is because she's making an uninformed opinion. So I'm with her there, but I kind of wanted more. What were you thinking?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. We've seen Stewie be so brilliant when it comes to speaking out in general. So I think that on a serious issue, like the discussion of slices, I would like to see her reach that level of leadership, and I think she fell short here for sure. You know, this is a classic scenario of when the cheap pizza gets to you, because you know there is a time and place. And I teased this earlier that I was going to maybe say something controversial, say something that might frankly end this podcast partnership, as you have put me on to tremendous Brooklyn pizza, you know, deep into Brooklyn, the places that I had not been familiar with. Yet there is a charm in the $5 Little Caesars. There is a charm in the Papa John's. And when KT speaks about the specifics of the Papa John's experience, she speaks to something very relatable, something universal, a comfort in the food that you are eating. When you open that box, when you see the little, garlic butter, when you see the little chili, that warms your heart. And what KT has done is frankly brilliant. She used her platform, right, to spread the love. And all of a sudden, it's very easy to decry Papa John's, to decry Domino's when it's not in front of you. What KT did is not only did she big up this pizza brand, this massive chain, but then she allowed all her players, all her teammates, to relish in the glory of free Papa John's. And I think that cannot go understated. And this brings us back to the point of Stewie and kind of the lack of leadership she's shown here, is that she has not returned that favor. Stewie is New York. Yeah, she's Syracuse, but she's New York. And she has a responsibility, frankly, to take KT to some of these spots, to bring the pizza to KT, because maybe KT is not going to want to expend that effort in her downtime. She might just want to be chilling, right? So this is on Stewie to bring her to some of the spots, and it begs the question: does Stewie know the spots herself? Because this could be an example where maybe Stewie's northern New York upbringing is kind of being exposed here, where she's not from the city, and she might be a little bit lost, because if you just Google best pizza in Brooklyn, you're going to get sent to spots that are going to take an hour for you to get a slice that, if you really know the real deal, you could be walking in and getting a better slice than you're getting at a Luke Hawley or La Industry. I don't know, all these trendy
Industry's great. The industry is great. I
can't because the industry is fire. It's fire, but it also is an earned experience. It is an experience where you have to sweat a little bit to get your hands on pizza. If you go to F&F in Carroll Gardens, you walk right in there, you have a fantastic slice. You could be eating, toppings that you never thought would go on pizza, would never be so delicious. Sit on their lovely little back patio on Court Street. You're chilling, right? So there's different levels to this, and it's become such a hit thing in New York that I think we need to hold, frankly, the New Yorkers accountable.
I think, that's fair. I'm glad you brought up Lucali, because if I remember correctly, Sabrina loves that spot, and she's got the name and the platform to skip that line. So when you talk about leadership here, that can fall on Sab too. And this is a failure of mine. I really should have asked her about this, because she has tried really to assimilate somewhat into the New York culture. In Stewie's defense, because even KT, and we're going to show you what KT said in a little bit, even KT said there hasn't really been much of an opportunity in the last couple of weeks with this controversy, because this team's been on the road a lot. So I think that some of this falls at the feet of Kathy Engelbert with the scheduling. And we've talked about that, and look at the Fever looking like a brand new team since they didn't have to play 11 and 20. Imagine how explosive the Liberty would be if they had solid pizza sitting in their stomach, instead of just, whatever you can get on the corner, or any random corner anywhere in the country. All that being said, I'm sorry. I'm trying to tone down and not doing a very good job my East Coast liberal elite bias when it comes to pizza. I hear it as I'm saying it. That doesn't mean that I can stop it. I'm trying to untrain, 35 years of my life. And frankly, I don't want to. I'm okay kind of putting my career at risk for this, because a man's got to have principles. So I hope you understand that. As it regards Papa John's, great job from them. They really stepped up. They saw an opening, and they're like, wow, no one has ever uttered the words Papa John's in New York with a pleasant connotation. So they saw this as a window, and they took advantage. They shot the gap, and that was a pick six the other way. So good on them. So I'm happy for them for that. But
here's another point that needs to, I think, be addressed here, which is that it gets at the universality, if you will, of the chain cheap, accessible pizza because it is everywhere. Basketball players are on the road constantly. They're traded to this team, to this team, to this team. So it transcends the regional nature. And let's be real too, as New York pizza experts here living in the city, there is a split in the borough to borough access to good pizza, the cost around good pizza, or the quality of the cheap pizza. And so one thing I feel very strongly about as someone who lives in Brooklyn is that we have a real dearth, I think that's the correct word, of good cheap pizza. If I am in Manhattan, if I have had some cold, enjoyable beverages over the course of a night, I can find a slice for $8 with no tax. I can have $3 in my pocket and I can get two solid, and I mean solid, like not spectacular, but like also not bad slices of cheese pizza and a bottle of water for $3. Dollar. Boom. In Brooklyn, this is rarely the case. There are very few dollar pizza joints in Brooklyn. They are not that good, the ones that exist. And pizza, the snobby, you bring up your background here with the kind of liberal East Coast elitist pizza snob. It is taking over this borough of Brooklyn in a way that is sad, in a way that I know hurts you because you love the OG spots, the L&B, Spumoni Gardens, etc., all the elite tier spots. But I had a friend the other day tell me that he tried or didn't even try because of the price, but Cuts and Slices, I think is the place, is selling like a $13 oxtail slice. Out of control. We have lost the plot. He said there were other slices that were $7-8 a piece with other toppings that didn't even look that good. We have a little bit lost the plot, which makes this the perfect time, as you said, for Papa John's to come in, because a lot of these players live in Brooklyn, and so this is what they are facing now. They have the means to kind of luxuriate in nicer pizza, in the more expensive pizza, but that's not the heart of the pizza game. And so I do think that things would be a little bit different if there was a really good $1 slice shop around downtown Brooklyn. It simply doesn't exist.
When you bring up the pricing, that's definitely an issue. And I think that comes with the gentrification that we've seen in North Brooklyn as a whole. This is absolutely in line because the spots, the L&Bs and the Del Mars, and I mean, even when you look at the downtown Brooklyn spots that have been there forever, whether it's Juliana's or the other one in that family that everyone goes to. I prefer Juliana's. They're right next to each other. Those spots have existed for a long time. The OG expensive slice was DeFara's in Midwood, and I was lucky enough to grow up a block and a half away from that. It's fallen off a step, unfortunately, since Dominic died. Rest in peace, Dom. We think about you every day. And his kids have taken over and expanded. They are all about the business, but not necessarily about the pizza in the same way. This man had scars up and down his arm because he never used a pizza stone or anything to get anything. He just reached in there, pulled out your pizza, took a scissor and cut fresh basil over the top. It was an art watching him.
That's real.
It would also take 45 minutes for him to make a pie, but yeah, that extra little taste of flavor was probably
years, baby.
Yeah, he so rip to Dom, we miss you. But he also had the original $6 slice back when everything was $175, $225, whatever, comparable to a MetroCard price. So yeah, I think you bring up a really good point there about just the access, and also just that these players are on the road constantly. So the last thing you want to do if you're in a city you're unfamiliar with at 11 o'clock at night, when you just need a slice and you're in a hotel room for the night, is go on to Yelp or go on to Seamless or whatever and look up the best pizza in the area. You want to go with something familiar. So we could kind of pass the buck to maybe some of these local spots that haven't expanded their reach outside of New York. But at the same time, I understand keeping that close to home. I get the appeal. I think knowing, though, that there are 40 games in a season and that 20 of them are spent here, that just can't be the reference point. It's KT's second year here. We can't treat her with kid gloves. Like this, This is not like she just pulled up for the first time. She has spent 2 summers. This is her second summer in New York City. Papa John's can be a favorite because it can be familiar, but it can't be your go-to while you're here. I think that's where it lands. And we spoke to KT, and unsurprisingly, she stood on what she felt.
So I just wanted to ask you, because I've asked a couple of your teammates the last couple of weeks, you kind of made the rounds on Liberty social media when you were talking about pizza. There was that pizza conversation between New York and Chicago, and you went Papa John's. I wanted to see if you had any comment about if any teammates have tried to introduce you to different pizza since then, or anything in New York.
Well, I mean, we really haven't had time because we kind of just been traveling, but, I don't think they can because, you just can't top, Papa John's. So, I think by this time they would have already tried to give me recommendations, but, they couldn't.
What is it about Papa John's pizza that you feel like puts it onto a tier by itself?
Papa John's don't do too much. They give it to you how it is, you know what I'm saying? And then just the garlic butter and the green package. If you don't know about that, then I don't know what to tell you.
If I were to bring pizza here,
Yeah.
would you try it for New York's, like actual New York pizza?
Papa John's pizza?
No, New York pizza.
I could try it. I could try it.
So what's your go-to topping?
I like a plain cheese, pepperoni. I like Papa John's ham and a pineapple.
Okay, now you're going a little bit wild.
Nah, you ain't tried that? Pineapple and ham?
No,
No,
not for
like
me.
it's called the Hawaiian.
Yeah.
You're missing out. You're missing
Thanks,
out.
KT. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So there you have it. You heard it, and I like that my podcast co-host here editorialized a little bit, because I have to say, the Hawaiian pizza is a very divisive topic, and I do fall on your side of things. Frankly, pineapple and ham sounds absolutely appalling to me, but I respect it. I get it. I love,
It's also hot fruit. It's hot fruit. That's what it mostly is. Like, I get the idea and the combination of sweet and a salty, but hot fruit should never really be a thing. I think that's kind of where I land. And then putting it onto pizza, because I'm not as much of a purist, where you were talking about that oxtail slice. And I know that places are like getting a little bit kitschy with how they're trying to bring people in. I think that most of the time it doesn't work, but I'm not against innovation. I'm not against people taking shots. But just hot fruit is where you lose me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I agree, but I can respect it. I love that KT is standing on business. I love that she is not going to let the pressures of liberal media get to her. She's not going to let the pressures of a city full of pizza connoisseurs get to her. I would be curious, because we've spoken a lot in generalities here about regional pizza and the pricing behind pizza, etc. We haven't actually talked much about specifically the construction of a slice. And I do think that this would be an interesting thing to interrogate a little bit here, and maybe in the future, as we, embark on what could be a long journey of hopefully getting this New York team on the same page pizza-wise. Is, the fast food slice, the Domino's, the Papa John's, is at its core a breadier slice. Mm-hmm. It is a little bit of an airier, kind of like cheesier type of situation. You've got a softer crust. Now, what we've seen in the snobby Brooklyn pizza revolution, if you will.
Now who's editorializing?
I'm quite good at that. If you haven't caught on yet. I have a few opinions. There has been almost a course correction, in my opinion, too far in the other direction. I love a thin, crispy slice, but there are some of these very trendy pizza spots in Brooklyn that have almost sacrificed like any sort of construction of backbone in the pizza, to the point where you'll get a pizza so pretty looking and thin that you could poke holes in it if you just pick it up. And that is where you really lose me. I want to either let KT experience the L&B, which is itself a very innovative breadier slice,
it's closer to a Detroit style, where it's got the cheese on the bottom and the sauce on the top.
Exactly. Which, by the way, there's a Detroit style place in Williamsburg that is spectacular, which brings me to another point of living in a city like this, where you might get like a really good different style of pizza brought to this city where there are so many different people living here. So I had not experienced Detroit style pizza. I know that's become popular recently outside of Detroit, but I tried this Detroit style pizza and it was fantastic. But again, to your point earlier, different time and place for pizza, right? L&B, Detroit style, like you don't really want to eat that before a game because you're gonna be weighing down. That's a post game slice. Conversely,
I mean, how many slices are you having before a game, though? Let's be real.
It depends on your level of commitment to the cause. You know, I look at players like Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum, and I think that their commitment to the cause of pizza is non-existent. Their commitment to the cause of getting their bodies in the best shape to be professional athletes, second to none. Now,
I'll tell you, I'm shaped like a pizza. I've had pizza 5 times a week my entire life. So my commitment to that cause is pretty strong. So
it's pretty strong. We're speaking the same language here. I aspire in another life to have the level of discipline that allows me to forego a good slice in the name of health, conditioning. I haven't found it yet. Maybe it'll happen for me in my 30s. We'll see. Doesn't seem likely.
No, it's not gonna happen.
It doesn't seem likely, but I think that that kind of breadier Detroit style, L&B style type of slice could be the entry point for KT. But if we're gonna go with this kind of type of pizza that has really taken over the borough and the city, you just need to have a solid slice of pizza. I love the crunch. I love the little.
You need to fold it. It needs to crunch. You need a little bit of char on the bottom.
You char on the bottom, but I need it to be just thick enough where you can't have one that gets so thin that I'm literally looking at holes in the pizza. That is becoming a pizza ick for me. And there is a middle ground where you get a pizza that has the perfect char, the perfect crunch, but that still has enough integrity that you
can't have the droop. You can't have the droop at all. It needs to fold cleanly, and you need to get that crunch on every bite.
100%. I'm glad we have found agreement here.
I do think that we've failed a little bit in just centering Brooklyn here, because there are tons of terrific slice shops. Shout out to even some of the big ones that are big commercial spots that are still good, like Joe's Pizza. Joe's is going to hit every time, right off of West 4th. And John's over there too. John's, that's a full pie. That's the only problem. But John's really good. And I used to work out in Astoria. There were some good spots out there. I don't know what survived the pandemic. It's been hard for some of these really small mom and pop shops. But there's a lot of really solid pizza. Even some of the trendy ones, I can do a slice of like Spring Street, the spicy one. Prince Street. The spicy spring is that pizza. It's got like 1,000 pieces of pepperoni on it. I can do one slice of that, and then I'm probably good on it for like a year. But
I think the trendy spot there's something to be said for some of them. Pauly G's
that's solid.
Is something where you might on the wrong day have to wait in line, but it is worth it.
Roberta's kind of perfected that personal style pizza. I believe there where the hot honey craze started with that hot honey and chili. So to them, like there's innovation that can happen and be good. You don't have to be around 75 years. You don't have to have had a co-owner killed by the mafia in order to say that you have a good pizza spot.
This is very true. Even shout out to Feeney Pizza, which I think has a spot in Barclays now. That's another one that is just popping up around the city and is very, very good, very solid. So yeah, there's plenty to be had, but you're just at the end of the day, deep in my heart, you are not gonna catch me shitting on Papa John's, on Domino's. I get it, and
They'll be shitting after, but yeah,
you know, maybe. But not if you eat your fiber cereal, all right? Not if you prepare for these moments.
I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game.
Yeah.
I do want to end not with an accusation, but on a message of hope. We are not done with this investigation. As you heard in that clip, Kayla is willing to try. We might have to bring pizza to her on a day outside of practice. But she said she's willing to try. I don't know if I can, with a straight face, order a Hawaiian slice for her. But we're going to work on this. We've already been in touch with TPR, who is on our side. I feel like we might be, all right, we might be breaking a confidence here, but TPR agreed with us that we need to fix this.
This is paywalled content. But even so, we do want to protect our sources and the people on the inside. I do
should bleep that out. Actually, I don't know.
Yeah, we can redact that part of the conversation. I think until a later date, at least. I do feel in agreement with KT on the simplicity. You know, she loses me at Hawaiian, but she brings me right back with cheese and pepperoni. Because ultimately, to judge a pizza, that's all you need. And I shouted out F&F earlier in Carroll Gardens, which is like practically my favorite spot. They've got so many fun, creative slices that aren't overdoing it, that aren't like annoying, snobby slices, but that are like, oh, I never knew I needed this and now I need it. But the cheese and the pepperoni hit there too. And if you are a place worth your sauce, worth your cheese, worth your dough, you are going to put forth a bang up cheese slice, a bang up pepperoni slice. And so I think that is where we can meet KT and say, hey, here you go. Here's the simple, because we appreciate the simple. We respect the classics and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good place to end. And there are also millions of different variants where we didn't even talk about the coal oven spots or compare that to the brick ovens. We talked a little bit about the personal size versus the slice. I think that the slice should be our focus here with KT. I think that's a great gateway entrance point into what she's missing out on. But yeah, until this is fixed, I'm not going to sleep well. I think this has been a couple weeks, and there are a whole bunch of reasons, but this must be at the top of why I haven't really been sleeping well. So I'm glad that we're working on this. We're going to work to find a solution, and we'll be sure to update you guys as soon as we have more.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you guys subscribing. If you want to tell, anyone close to you to subscribe to our Patreon, your dollars help us get to the bottom of these important issues. So every person that subscribes is another few dollars for us to be able to really work this case and get to where
pizza for Kayla Thornton, basically. That's basically all we're gonna do.
Exactly. Till next time.